seems it's a plot to drop the IQ. Fighting amongst each other over rumors that don't like you. Prefer us trapped in melancholy with the wood ones of holly. Suggestions that obliterate to camouflage the folly. Attempted mental robbery, executed sloppily. The hypocrisy, this mockery, and walk the talk with me. Put the hands up to touch the Akasha, cause you know deep down there's something bigger than your wallet.
Sweet eternal balance of all that is good, true, and beautiful, friends. Welcome back to Rogue Soul, where tonight my lighting seems strange and I seem orange and dim, but here I am anyway. I don't know what's happening. Hopefully it'll figure itself out by next time, and for now we'll just roll with it. Most of you I know are listening anyway on the podcast. You can find us, of course, everywhere. My YouTube is reinstated, so if you like to watch on YouTube, it's there as well. Been on Rumble the whole time, even after YouTube deleted all of my channel and all of my content. And then, yeah, it's back. It's back with a big gap for all the years that I didn't have it. So, you can be doing it however you like. Rogue Soul, that's the way you're going to get it. Tonight, of course, is the winning report. And the winning report, as always, will look at all of the news, all of the things from around the world, but from the point of view of someone with a brain who doesn't think out of their emotional center, who uses logic, and who knows their soul exists. That combo is the trifecta that will get you through all of the delusions and illusions they try to implant within you, all of the agendas the evil cabals are trying to pull over your eyes and get you to go along with. That's all you need, a clear mind, some logic, and the knowledge of your soul. So let's do it. Of course, before we do, please go to roguesoul.org if you want to have a one-on-one session with me, sound healing, tarot, past life, or otherwise. If you want to get the books, all the books are so good. I was just talking again today with people who love the books, especially Earth, A Trough in Time is one of my favorites. It's hard for me to choose a favorite from the fictional trilogy, but that one everyone seems to really love a lot. They're all three so good. So if you're into fictional trilogies, grab that. You can also get it at Barnes & Noble, Audible, Amazon, any of the places books are sold. The Sine Curve of Aeons trilogy, and you can get my channeled source messages as well. Speaking of those, you can be on Substack. You could be alerted to all of my blessings and events, the retreats and everything. You could be also getting all the free articles I write for the free subscribers on Substack, and you could also support the show, support what I do, and get channeled messages when they come through if you're a paid subscriber on Substack, rogueways.substack.com. All of that, of course, is linked to from roguesoul.org. It's the hub from which you can find everything I do. So go to those places, sign up today, support what you love, become a paid subscriber, get all those perks. Thank you, thank you, thank you to all of you who are already on Substack. And let's get into it. If you're expecting me tonight to talk a lot about Epstein, you're wrong. It's probably a few things that have come up since I did the episode where I summarized everything that seems to have been released in this most current batch of releases. You can check out that episode. It's called something like Epstein, Evil, and something. So if you want to check that out, then do that. That's where you'll get the rundown, of course. So maybe a few tidbits here, but this episode, as always with the Winning Report, is going to talk about all the things going on. And there's much more than just the Epstein files. And of course, we want to keep our eye on much of it. So let's do it. First, we have here Mayor Karen Bass. You might remember her from LA after the Palisade fire. She came under immense scrutiny because why was the reservoir empty, and why weren't the firemen able to turn on the water at the spigots, and why were the brush and the stuff never cleared out over the past decade and more, allowing a massive fire hazard to occur. Why all of these questions and more? Why was the money that was supposed to be spent on making up after the fire spent on almost nothing, or parks in which sirens could be heard by children who are supposedly going to play in these parks? Really interesting things. Yes, that Karen Bass, she has been shown now beyond a doubt to have personally ordered a Pacific Palisades fire cover up. You can see in the preparation to release reports about what had happened, that she is telling people to soften the mistakes that were made, to make it seem as though they weren't as big of mistakes as they actually were. So not an all-out cover-up necessarily, but definitely aware that mistakes were made and definitely didn't want you to think about those mistakes. So there's her being shown to have done that. I, as what people call a conspiracy theorist, like I say, I bat 1,000. Like, I don't know if I've ever been wrong about anything as far as conspiracies go. And it's not because I'm like an amazing psychic. It's because I think. It's because I think, like I said in the intro, I think without using my emotions, and I am generally unattached to what the outcome will be, because I don't have identity caught up in any of these things. So it doesn't matter to me. It doesn't matter to me if Karen Bass is an evil person or not. It doesn't matter to me if Trump is. It doesn't matter to me if Putin is, or any of these people. I don't care at all. I can't be partisan because it doesn't matter to me about any of these things except good and evil. That's it. Do you protect children? Do you not? Do you uphold them as sacred, or do you not? That's it. I know you by your fruits, and whatever other labels you put on yourself, don't fool me. I don't care what you call yourself. I'm a teacher. I'm a nurse. I'm a, hypochondriac. Like, it doesn't matter. What do you actually do? What do you actually say and do? What are your fruits of your life? And that's a big piece of it, right? So as I'm always reminding all of us, the less attached we can be to any given outcome, the less attached we can be to any sort of aspect of our identity, the easier it is to actually engage with reality. Unfortunately, we have an ongoing illegal immigrant truck driver, the big rig drivers, still continuing to kill people. This time in Tennessee, 4 Amish people have been murdered now by the illegal immigrant who did not understand how to drive the vehicle he was driving. These are often being set up by what they're calling chameleon trucking services, in which they're sort of third party, and so they can get away without some of the safety scrutiny and some of the proving that people can speak the language, proving that they can follow driving laws and that they understand. All that's out the window, and we keep seeing this all around the country, that all of these people are being murdered by these truckers who are illegal immigrants, and a lot of the time have no idea how to drive a big rig. Plenty of American citizens would love to do it, but they'd rather pay people less and import them and then put people's lives at risk. So 4 Amish people, I think the youngest one was 19, just starting out in life, 26 and some other ages, and really, really tragic. Will there be protests for them? Will anybody protest these trucking companies or these policies? Because they always like to say, oh, even if one life can be saved, or even if one life is lost, it's too much. Well, then what about this, guys? What about these guys? You don't seem to care about that. You don't seem to care about them. You don't seem to care about the tens and scores of people's lives who are ruined by illegal immigrants who rape and kill their daughters, right? Our daughters, our mothers, who are convicted of robbery, of trafficking children, of trafficking drugs. None of that matters to you for some reason. None of that matters to you. So I'm sure these people's lives don't matter to you either. They're not the right kind of lives, right? There's no Amish Lives Matter that's really trendy right now. There's no pin to wear. There's no ribbon to put on. There's no hashtag that's trending. So why would you care, right? Right. Tragically sad. Hopefully we can swap up some of those loopholes and close them down. Stop letting people die at the hands of illegal immigrant truckers. Bill Maher. Bill Maher came out and apologized to QAnon. It's hilarious. If you want to really get into it, there's a Q and then there are anons. There's not really a QAnon. QAnon is like a catch-all term for the sort of general zeitgeist of that movement, if you want to call it that. And so whatever you think Q is, there's Q, and then there's the anons, which are the people who, follow Q. And they were all anonymous because this all came out of 8chan, or was it 4chan? So, anyway, misnomer there, but he apologizes. He says, "You know what? I made fun of Q. I made fun of the QAnon thing. I made fun of people who thought that there was a satanic, elite cabal that was practicing pedophilia and trafficking children and was in control of all of our major institutions. I mocked it, and now turns out they're right." Bill Maher said it. He said it on that leftist guy's show. I don't remember his name. I think he's an old baseball player or something. I can't remember. I don't care about most of these people, but interesting when Bill Maher says something like that. He's often right, sort of middle, whatever of whatever the trending red blue teams are saying. He's sort of always kind of like weaving through, and there's good things and bad things about him, but he at least every once in a while will admit things like this. So very interesting for him to say that out loud. Still wondering, I would love to talk to a normie who had never sort of considered any of this, or maybe they had heard about Pizzagate, but just like so many people were like, oh, it's a hoax or whatever. And then this is happening, and I just love to know. What's really interesting to me, I'm trying not to get too much into it because, like I said, I just did a whole episode just on Epstein and these releases. But what's really interesting to me is how many people, even in the sort of alternative and conspiracy sort of realms, are saying things like Elon and Trump are implicated and they're in trouble now and they better watch out, or it's all coming down. And I'm like, I mean, especially as someone who claims to be outside of the mainstream, outside of the narrative, like not a normie, somewhat more involved with some of the more esoteric or occulted, what's going on in the world, that sort of stuff. To say something like that is astonishing to me. And again, I don't care if it came out tomorrow that Trump was absolutely the king pedophile of all pedophiles. I'd be like, word, I'm not attached. But it's exactly the opposite. There's literally nothing you can find in Pizzagate, in any of the WikiLeaks dumps, which is what Pizzagate is, what led to Pizzagate, or in these released files that have any indication that Trump is anything except someone who actually helped shut down Epstein and this cabal, an informant for the FBI. And Musk is the same. He's mentioned once, and it's them. By them, I mean Epstein or his people, inviting him to a gala in which he declines the invitation. So you have all of this evidence way before anyone cared, kind of like what side Elon and Trump were on, way before they were even important in the mass mind and the consciousness. I mean, they were, but in their subcultures, right? Now they're up on the even higher, even more extreme level of our mass consciousness and mind. Before all of that, when they were much less important in that way, they were already cleared of wrongdoing. And I'm saying that in the sense of what we can know, right? Based on the documents that were just released, and those released over 12 years. I don't even remember how long ago it was that the WikiLeaks dump came out, which like Vault 7 or which one? I don't even know. There were so many back then. And so I don't know, man. I don't know what that mind virus is. If you could tell me, I would love for you to explain it to me. I'm not saying any of you listeners are on that level. I'm just saying, like, maybe you have an insight I'm not able to get. I don't get where people are getting this, except that people really hate Elon or they really hate Trump and they really believe they're evil. And so they're just saying, oh, since they're mentioned at all, therefore bad, which doesn't even make sense. If Epstein's calling you a bad person in his private emails to other people, and there's no other evidence that he's ever gotten you to come to his island or do anything, doesn't hang out with you, what do you think that implies? If you beg Elon Musk to come to your event and he says no, what do you think that implies? And that's the only time. I could be wrong. More could come out. I'm just saying. Almost everyone else is implicated but them. And the other thing, when people are like, well, it's all of them, it's all of Hollywood, it's all the politicians, it's all the whatever, like, well, clearly it's not. I mean, Anne Heche, right? Chris Cornell, potentially Anthony Bourdain, those other two people that were wearing the mouse mask because they got let out of their house and whatever, and then they died with the red tie too. All the red tie suicides. I mean, they were all famous people. They were all powerful people. They all died. Isaac Cappy. I mean, the list can go on of people who have tried to resist this cabal and ended up dead. So no, not all powerful people. And I'll just say it again, exactly like I said on the previous episode. If you're still delusional enough to think that any group, all fill in the blank, are bad or good, you've already lost the narrative. You've already lost your ability to determine what's actually going on in the world. It's not all Democrats. It's not all Republicans. It's not all bankers. It's not all Hollywood. It's not all anyone. There's going to be good and bad people in all those groups. So Bill Maher apologizing for making fun of Pizzagate and QAnon. Very interesting. All right. I've obviously missed something because I am seeing a story twice already, or I put it in here twice. You never know. This is interesting. 35 countries, including the US and China, out of the 85 countries attending the Ream Summit, which I've never heard of before, have opted out of signing the Joint Declaration Pledge on Responsible Military AI Use. They said, nah, we're not going to responsibly use military. I'll be fair, just because it's called that, it doesn't actually mean that's what it's about. It could have all kinds of stuff in there that's really crazy, just like the WHO treaties had, right? Like hidden little clauses that are like, by the way, we control your entire system in case of pandemic. Like, no thanks. So who knows what it is that was actually questionable that made them opt out. It might just be that they're like, no, we want to use AI for sure during any war, is in any way we want. We want to be free to do that, right? And I wouldn't blame them. And I'm not saying that's a great choice or not. I'm saying I also wouldn't let some sort of weird international, like, committee tell me what to do. I would do what I felt guided to do based on my understanding of good and evil, right and wrong, and universal law. So thanks, but no thanks. But, it could be telling also of like what we're planning to do with AI in the military. Pretty interesting stuff. So don't worry if you were worried about the World Economic Forum and whether or not they were taking the Epstein situation seriously. They are investigating their own CEO to clarify his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. And just like all internal audits, I'm sure they'll find that everything's fine and we don't have to worry. Well, of course, right? I'm sure the World Economic Forum was not something you trusted to begin with. I definitely didn't. So there's no way they can improve my trust in them either way. They could degrade it more for sure, I guess. But in no way am I ever going to trust you. Even if you said, yep, he's a pedophile, get rid of the CEO, I would just say, well, there's your sacrificial lamb, right? The next guy you're getting in is also going to be a pedophile. That's just how you roll, Economic Forum. Remember, I'll just add too, the Satanists are freaking out right now. Remember, the World Economic Forum this year was super divided, and not in a way where it seemed in any way like it was planned to be that way. It actually seemed like so many of the Satanists and the higher-ups were just blindsided with how many people were speaking the truth and off topic, off agenda. And they were getting red in the face. They were sweating. Gavin Newsom was like freaking out. Like, you could look at the different Satanists that you know for sure in that satanic pedivore cabal, and you could see them literally just jilted, just not like shaken, like they're not able to keep their calm. And a lot of them even said like, wow, this has been a really divided World Economic Forum, and I've never seen it this way. They said that. I said that. They said that. So World Economic Forum is shifting. Things in the highest levels are shifting. The different divides that exist in the power structures have really radically shown themselves. The war is on, and things like the World Economic Forum are going to go out the wayside unless they are co-opted by, what I like to call the new money technocrats, who are far less evil. And I'm not saying they're great. I'm saying they are far less evil than the Satanists for sure. So that's happening. So with that, and then the Epstein fallout, they're coming at us with some things, I'm sure. It might be through things like the color revolution that's been begun in Minnesota. That might sort of be prompted to sort of take into a larger area of the United States. It might be with a full-on, attack from someone like China or one of our enemies. It might be cyber, security. It might be something else. But you can expect it to be a false flag, whatever it might be. The other side of that I warned you about with the last episode as well is that Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton have now that the Epstein files have been released in an even greater quantity, they are planning on showing up finally for their indictment. So they were subpoenaed, and then they were held in contempt for not responding to the subpoena. And now they're like, okay, yeah, we'll come. And they're coming at the end of February, they say. So we can expect for that to be full of lies. Full of lies. There is no conceivable reality where Bill and Hillary Clinton come out and say, yeah, we tortured and ate children and we drank adrenochrome and we did it with Epstein. That's not going to happen. So you can expect that they have a finely crafted series of events and talking points that are going to magically come together to make them look great and the people who are against them look bad, which was the new money technocrats. So we'll see, but that's what we can expect. And I believe the tarot for the month of February reflected that. So interesting stuff perhaps coming up. Also on this topic of Epstein, Sloan Bella, who I do not follow, but people who love me love her. And so they tell me about her often. And maybe we have similar ways of looking at the world. I'm not sure. But for some reason, they connect us in their mind. And so this Sloan Bella, who is a psychic, I know that. I know she's a psychic medium. I believe she channels things. I know that because I remember people talking about her channeling or psychically looking into, I believe it was Madeleine McCain. Maybe it was JonBenet Ramsey. They run together in my mind because they're so similar. And either way, so I know she's like a psychic and or a medium. So, and when I just use my channel just to ask about her, like, is she good, true, and beautiful, I get a yes every time. So I do believe she does have psychic abilities. I believe she's probably accurate most, if not all the time. And I only say that because even people with abilities can be wrong a lot. So I'll just clarify that too. But she has come out and said, she says, this is on her Facebook, by the way. I started following her when enough of my people, my followers who love Rogueways and Rogue Soul have told me about her, right? So I went to check her out, and I don't see much from her, to be honest. She says she seems to be like rock climbing and like doing other things, and that's what her posts are about, which is cool. I love that she's just real. But anyway, one of her posts just came out today, and it says, so you see what happened? Savannah's mother, and this is Savannah Guthrie. Her mom has disappeared. She is some kind of a newscaster, I don't know, reporter or something on some, I don't know, CNBC, who knows, whatever. Samantha Guthrie. Her mom disappeared. And so this has been a sort of national case. Maybe you've heard about her mom disappearing. And she says, you see, Savannah's mother was kidnapped while she and her husband are named in the Epstein file release. The Clintons pop up and agree to testify suddenly. So she's like me. She also sees that as fishy. She says, that's not suspicious, sarcastically, right? So we're on the same page with that. She says, while we're at it, remember when Al Gore got caught in an airport with a suitcase? It was actually a briefcase full of blood vials. I actually don't remember that, but I am not surprised. That guy's definitely in the Black Eye Club, been to Antarctica, creepy to the max, and obviously pushing the false climate change narrative his whole life. So yeah, probably not blood vials, probably adrenochrome. Who knows? She says, well, I do remember because I was eating dinner, watching the news. It came across the news, and guess which company would have PR cleaned it up? Glover Park Group, ran by, let's say it together, Savannah's husband. He worked scrubbing the internet of the Clinton crimes, and now see this. So her parents and husband, and therefore her, are implicated in this general cabal action, right? Covering things up, transporting adrenochrome or blood, maybe not down in the dirt, maybe not otherwise, right? Like maybe not the actual children, maybe not actual pedivores, who knows? It doesn't actually matter because you'll know them by your fruits. Are children harmed in the general? Yes, they are. So you are also. So we know now that Savannah and her family, maybe other people already knew, I don't know, but that they're implicated, they're connected to Bill and Hillary Clinton, and now the Clintons are going to testify. So just interesting. I didn't know much about that family or those connections, and studied Pizzagate deeply, and now paying attention to the Epstein stuff. There's plenty of people that I miss or just don't notice, or whatever. But interesting stuff that her mom's now missing. Yeah. So you could wonder, and we don't know for sure, right? But you could wonder whether or not the Satanists are so nervous that they're like watching. And if anyone in their general network is seeming to potentially be ready to offer some information to the very winning side of the new money technocrats against them, that they're going to be taken out, or they're going to be reminded what happens to people who talk, right? Or people who try to switch sides. So maybe even just a warning to Samantha and her husband, right? Interesting stuff. All right. On the Billie Eilish front, you may have heard Billie Eilish at the Grammys, I guess, was giving her acceptance speech. And, they all used it to talk about ICE and how bad ICE is, and what a terrifying, horrible time it is to live in this Gestapo tyranny of the Nazis and everything. Ugh! Like, you're rich and you don't even know what suffering could potentially be like, and you're going to try to pretend like you care about these people. You don't. You are probably also drinking adrenochrome. You're probably also invited to pedo or cannibalistic parties, and you've probably participated. That's probably why you're winning an award, dude. So shut up, you virtue signaling assholes. You're all evil. Not all, just most. Well, when her speech said, no one's illegal on stolen land, guys, which is this thing that I said when I was a communist. Oh, look, all the same chants, all the same phrases, all the same tactics. It never changes. Oh my God, I said the exact same shit. So, yeah. So what's funny about that is that then the tribe who owned the land that her house is on in California, her 14 million or whatever dollar property, that land, the tribe that had been on that land historically, they're like, oh, cool. Well, then that's our house, by the way. And I thought that was just enough, and that was a funny joke, and it was going to stop there. Oh, no, it's not. There's now a law firm that is pro bono offering to represent that tribe to get that house for them. And you know what's hilarious about this? There's actually a universe where that works out for them, because when you admit fault, and now it's on record, and you did it on camera, and we've got the video, and you said this is stolen land and it's stolen from that tribe, I stole this land from you, there is an actual argument to be made, and it could be upheld in court. So it might not be that just enough people hassle her and say, walk your talk, dude, you're the one who said stolen land, no one's illegal, so it's not illegal of them to take it back from you, is it? It was theirs, in fact, to begin with, so it's never been yours. So I love it. I hope it comes back to haunt her. I hope they win. So fun. Such a cool thing. Okay. Oh, we still have more wins as well for the whole trans ideology slowly dying thing. It's really great. It continues to have big wins here. Children's Minnesota is going to stop prescribing puberty blockers to minors. The doctors who prescribe them might even be prosecuted because they abuse children. The tides are turning, and they're turning fast. This is such a big win. Like I said, one of the lines between good and evil, or the most important one, is, do you protect and uphold the sacredness of children, or do you harm them? You don't really have any other choice. This is also a huge win and very cool. This woman went to UCLA, I believe, and held a sign. Yeah, UCLA. She held a sign outside Mark Tramo's offices or classroom. And Mark Tramo is one of the people who are in the Epstein files, very clearly talking about very dark things, very clearly talking about abusing children. And not one of these people like, oh, he just happens to be in there and who knows what the connection they did or didn't have. No, very obvious pedophilia connections. She held the printout of his email and was yelling outside his classroom saying, what are you going to do about this? Well, the department head actually came out to speak with her and told her they're not renewing his contract. So they, which is great. They maybe don't have enough grounds to fire him before then. He might still get forced out anyway. Sometimes, like, if these kids are serious, they might be like, I'm not taking a class from a pedophile. And that'd be amazing. It'd be such a good shift in our consciousness and our culture. But this is good enough. This is a good enough win that they're just not renewing his contract because of his presence in those files. UCLA, the kind of like bastion of the leftist ideology that just a few years ago said, let's cut up children, let's medicate them into oblivion, and definitely pedophilia is a sexual orientation. That same UCLA is now firing someone, essentially, not renewing them for being mentioned in the Epstein files. Huge win, huge transformation happening. Love that. Very, very cool. So take all these wins to heart. It's a dark time. It can be hard to hold on to the light. And so you want to just keep those things in your heart, the things that are beautiful that are happening. All right, Bitcoin is down even more, down to 69,000. I don't remember how high it was. I'm bad at paying attention, but I believe it was up above 100,000. So nearing that sort of almost halfway mark, bottoming out a bit. But as everybody who's ever watched Bitcoin long enough knows, it'll bounce back up sooner or later. So it might be the time to buy if you're into that. Speaking of Bitcoin, that's also been coming up in the Epstein files. I don't think I addressed it in that episode. So I'll just say now, since it just came up, that the idea is that Epstein had ties, big monetary and influence ties with a handful of the core developers of Bitcoin, that apparently we now know all the developers of Bitcoin, I guess. And so there's connections there. I'll say that matters. We should look into that. We should think about that. Definitely be aware of it. But especially, as you may know, if you've ever studied Bitcoin, it doesn't actually matter unless a majority of the nodes are controlled by a unified group. And I'm sure they're trying to get there. But the more of us control our Bitcoin and do it, or control or support a node of Bitcoin, the less likely that ever is to happen. And so God bless the Bitcoin node holders and the network that is not consolidated, because if that happens, then yes, Bitcoin will have then become bust. If it doesn't happen, Bitcoin will remain the only currency that we know of outside of massively ancient history that's been fully forgotten, the only currency that is decentralized, that actually has the potential to free humanity from financial subjugation and slavery, which is what we've been in our entire history. So if you like the sounds of that, this is the way to do it. The other way is to just have local currencies of any kind we decide to have in cities or counties or states even. And that could potentially work. It's still going to be centralized there, but it's at least more accessible to us and decentralized on a larger scale. So there's that. So worry about it, look into it, wonder, see if there's anything else to it, but you can't actually control Bitcoin the way it was created unless you get to that point. And you couldn't have made that happen from its inception, and you couldn't have predicted it, and you could definitely plan for ways to get there eventually. And that is what they're trying to do. No, don't be deluded about that, right? But don't imagine that just because that's true, Bitcoin in general is just like garbage and has no potential. It has a huge potential, has the hugest potential we've ever known. All right. Trump, very unlike a Satanist. So I'll point out again, Trump is one of the only politicians to mention Jesus by name, to talk about God, to talk about worshiping God, to talk about being saved by Jesus and doing all that publicly, that's not a thing Satanists do. In fact, they often wear inverted crosses right out in public, as we saw Chelsea Clinton doing and many other Satanists. So to talk about all those things is interesting. And Trump says, we're going to rededicate America as one nation under God. And he's actually planning this. This is like an event now that's coming up, I think in April or something. And, you know, I don't know what they're going to invite everyone to Washington, D.C. and have like a rededication, a spiritual rededication of the U.S. I love it. I'm sure all the Satanists hate it. I am positive that leftists hate it. I'm positive that all the people that have been indoctrinated with Christian hatred hate it. And I love that. I love it. Good. Sit in your hate, you dirty fuck. I'm going to be happy when it happens. Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard has seized 2 vessels in the Persian Gulf, allegedly carrying over 1 million liters of smuggled fuel, with 15 foreign crew members detained. I don't know whose fuel or which part of World War III this might be a part of. I'm not sure, but that's Iran has gotten those. They're Iran's now. So win for Iran in this ongoing 5th generational non-linear war. Oh, it's May 17th. That's the day that they're rededicating the United States to God, one country under God. So May 17th. I want to look into the potential like astrology or importance of May 17th, right? And what that might indicate. What's special about May 17th? Let's see if we can find anything really quick. Oh, I bet some numerologists and some experts out there are probably already hitting on some things, but I don't know. I'll look into it deeper. I'll let you guys know if anything comes up through the channel or through other means. We have 2001, a supermodel named Karen Mulder. I don't think I've ever heard of her. Made me, of course, think of X-Files, Mulder. But Karen Mulder, a supermodel, went on a French talk show and accused powerful people, including politicians and royals, of being satanic pedivores. She, as you can imagine, even in 2001, was condemned. She was committed to a mental institution. She was called crazy, and she was institutionalized. I'm guessing against her will, and who knows what happened to her after that. Once you're institutionalized, you're easy game. That's what Savile taught us, right? So gross. So pray for that woman. And what a brave thing to say out loud at that time. Now, people will be like, oh, yeah, that's yesterday's news. Like, I don't know. I don't know how people are actually dealing with realizing the extent of evil on Earth, but hopefully better than Karen Mulder. Sorry, Karen Mulder. So it's been suppressed for so long, and it's now coming to the light. The apocalypse. The apocalypse has been here for a minute, since 2020. And let's see what else we have here. The largest healthcare fraud takedown in the U.S. Department of Justice history is occurring / has occurred. I know it's very popular to be like, no one's being arrested and nothing's happening. And like, that's not been true the whole time, and it's still not true now. And now all of a sudden my lighting seems better. I wonder if to you it even changed at all. I'm fascinated. I have no idea. All right. So largest takedown ever. There's in fact, let's look at some of the stats on this takedown. $14.6 billion in false and fraudulent claims have been submitted and are now being looked at. $245 million in cash, cryptocurrency, luxury vehicles, and other assets have been seized. Illegal diversion of over 15 million pills of controlled substances has been discovered. It sounds like maybe they've actually got the substances back. I don't know. $10.6 billion in fraudulent claims for urinary catheters and medical equipment was found. God. 324 defendants, including 96 doctors, nurse practitioners, pharmacists, and other licensed professionals have been gotten, I guess. So that's just the beginning of that. There's and in addition to what we've already talked about in previous episodes. So definitely people are being arrested. Are politicians going to be arrested is the question. Are they going to face any kind of justice? And we'll see. We will see. Erica Kirk has filed a legal notice under Victim Representatives' Right to be Heard, requesting that there is ultimate transparency in the case against Tyler Robinson in order to lay to rest some of the questions and conspiracy theories surrounding Charlie Kirk's assassination. She did this publicly. She shared the documents. She's trying to show people that that is her goal. I know that that won't matter to 97% of the people that made up their mind already. But it's not something that someone who is deeply trying to hide something would do. So there's that. This was so funny. I guess you're not gonna be able to see it, so I don't know why I'm even sharing it. But just so you know, we've talked about the year of the horses coming up. We talked about the frowny face horses that were accidentally created in Asia and how they're doing quite well on the market. And we now have from Lego a galloping horses canvas, is what it's called. It's like a canvas with a Asian sort of painting of horses, and then you kind of have that hanging behind. Once you construct your Lego horses, you've got the 4 horses coming out of the painting almost. And it is exactly the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. Thank you, Alex, for sharing that. 4 horsemen of the apocalypse to the T. The colors, the placement, it's exactly that. There is no accident there. Pretty actually disturbing. They're like signaling to the world, like, we're here, we're in the apocalypse, here's the 4 horsemen, we're gonna have plagues and deaths and wars and all the fun things. So that's from Lego. I almost want one just to sort of like memorialize the time when they released the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse in Lego. So silly. All right. Kamala HQ, a Twitter account, had come online with a cryptic video posting for the first time since Kamala lost the 2024 presidential election, saying tomorrow, and then, you know, just a weird series of things that are trying to look like they're trying to get into their own account, and they're using all these passwords to do it. One of them is way too online. The babysitter is weird. Project 2025 was real. And then just headquarters, and that's the one that works. So pretty weird. The babysitter is weird. I do believe her husband had sex with their babysitter. So that's a pretty weird thing to put there. But I wonder if her own staff is just trolling her now because she's such a joke. That's what it feels like to me. Anyway, that was pointless and stupid. Trump says he's building his own triumphal arch in Washington that'll be about 250 feet larger than Paris's Arc de Triomphe. Good. I love it. He should. It's amazing. I love that he's so obsessed with himself. It's rad. Turns out, it says, what is this? It's hidden from me. Oh, people were mad because they're saying that Trump ordered an end to the temporary protected status of 350,000 Haitians. But actually, it was an executive order that was made by Biden. It was just expiring, and they weren't going to sign it to make it last, right? They're going to let it expire. But a federal judge decided it's not allowed to expire. And so they're trying to keep it alive. I don't even think that's allowed. I don't even think that's legal. Just like a lot of these activist judges, they're just doing whatever just to say they did it and to see if we let it happen, right? Really interesting. So it's starting to border on insanity. It says Biden administration put in a temporary protection order for 350,000 Haitians. It was done through executive order, so there was no vote, no law, and no legislation. Yeah, that shouldn't be something a judge can even weigh on. So pretty ridiculous. That was from Wall Street Apes on Twitter. And, you know, it's this insanity that is making it really obvious that the Satanist / Democrat Party, again, there's going to be Satanists in the Republican Party, and not all Democrats are Satanists, but for the most part, they've chosen the Democrat Party to represent themselves, they're really attached to their illegal immigrant votes and census numbers so they can have their power that they steal. And so that's their last dying hope in this mitote. Los Angeles law enforcement officials announced the results of their week-long sex trafficking crackdown operation Reclaim and Rebuild. 156 adults rescued, 14 children rescued, 71 suspected traffickers arrested, 328 sex buyers arrested, 16 non-human trafficking sex offenses, 611 total statewide criminal arrests made. That's just in Los Angeles County. So that's amazing. Good job. Huge win for all those humans who are now free from a horror most of us can't imagine. God bless them. Vance says, in a perfect world, he would love it if freedom-loving Iranians took over their own country and had a government that was much more friendly to the United States. Wouldn't that be a good thing? He says, absolutely. I agree with him. That's what I say. The U.S. government is investigating Nike over allegations that the company discriminates against white people due to Nike's diversity, equity, and inclusion-related targets. Good. Anyone who has DEI targets should be investigated for racism, especially against white people. But also often it is against Asian people. So interesting, huh? And against men. Oh. Yeah. So we've also got this lawsuit launched out of Missouri, a federal lawsuit against the U.S. Department of Commerce and the Census Bureau over counting illegals in the census. They're seeking an injunction blocking illegals from being counted in the upcoming census and to recalculate congressional seats. So they were blocked from counting illegals in the census, and they're working their ass off to keep the illegals in the census. Again, Democrats only win if they can keep the voting machines, which are what we attacked with Maduro and the offsite, black site in Belgium that was taken down, and Smartmatic and all of that. They can only win with that, with mail-in voting fraud, with the shenanigans like they pulled in the 2020 election where they shut down voting stations and then continued to count and make copies of all the ballots and all of that stuff. They can only win by hook and crook and by counting illegals and letting them vote, getting their census data so they can get their seats in the House of Representatives and letting them vote. And so when you take that away, they start to freak out. So again, the Satanists are on the run. This is one of the ways they are. When you count in what's happening to them on the vote, when you count in what's happening to them with this Epstein release, when you count what's happening to them with WEF and that fracturing that's going on at the highest levels, that's why I'm saying perhaps watch out for some escalations, right? And people will say, like, watch out for the false flags because they're trying to distract you. Sure. But what they're actually trying to do is find ways to both distract you while taking back power, while also like stealing something over here, right? They're always multi-tiered in this. So it's not just about distraction. It's about so much more. So keep your eyes peeled for sure. And or, be doing your prayers, your intentions, or whatever you like to do in order to support the better or good guys winning instead, and all of the enemy's plots being destroyed. So there was some back and forth with Iran and the U.S. about nuclear talks going on, about making another agreement. They've had an agreement. It's called the SMART agreement or something about nuclear agreement. And that's sort of aging out. And so what's the new agreement going to be? And then they were like, well, no, we're not going to meet with you and we're not going to have an agreement. And now they're back on. And so Friday, which is tomorrow, they are supposedly going to have this talk, nuclear agreement talk. So we'll see what happens with that. Or was that Syria? My bad. I already deleted it. So it was Iran. It was Iran. Supreme Court will not take up challenge to Governor Newsom's redistricting efforts in California. So that's sad. With these redistricting that California is doing, even though 40 or more % of the state is red, they will have less than 4% of the representation. Yeah, pretty hook and crook. That's how they roll. The Democrat Party. Trump plans to erect a statue of Christopher Columbus on the White House grounds. Yeah, I mean, Columbus is one of the worst people who's ever lived. If you want to, however, honor the person who you say discovered this land who didn't, but we say did, sure. What's actually true about Columbus is that he's kind of masculine representation about the goddess Columbia, which was created in order to represent the United States and the dream of creating a republic that was actually creating the maximum amount of liberty for its people. So Columbus, but Columbia, interesting. I've done really deep dives into Columbia, the word, the etymology of it, the goddess, what other, goddess or goddesses might resonate sort of sympathetic vibration with that energy of Columbia. And, there is something to colomb being in the etymology of Columbia, and that is a cage for doves. So there's something to the potential that there is something kind of cagey, like subversive or not freedom oriented in the wording of this. But actually, if you look at all of the songs, poems, images made of the goddess Columbia and the places that are named Columbia outside of the District of Columbia, it's interestingly not negative at all. In fact, when Columbia, the goddess, has had a column or a dove sort of bird cage in her hands, the doors open and the doves are coming and going. So it almost more than, lack of freedom seems to indicate more what we would call dominion, right? Taking care of that which also serves you, and a symbiotic sort of relationship. So very interesting. I know we like to just like shit on Christopher Columbus and poo-poo that, but I don't care if there are statues of him. As I've said all along, whether the statues are of good or bad people, they still serve to remind us of our history, and there's nothing wrong with that. The guy that attempted to kill Trump and also was very active in Ukraine in very strange ways, Ryan Ruth, he's been sentenced to life in prison, as we knew he would be likely to be if no shenanigans were pulled. We definitely found more and more evidence of the paid protest organization. As always, remember people like I just remembered his name the other day. Nate Friedman, who does a lot of work showing who's paid and who's not, and who's paying them for these protests, which are very much not organic about anti-ICE sentiment, mostly at this moment, at least, that they are doing good work and they're showing these payments. Most of the protesters are not going to be paid protesters, even though it is true there are paid protesting networks. And so I shouldn't say that. At this point, there might actually be most of the protesters are paid in some way, because we also have big buses that will pull up and all these people will pile out and all of a sudden they're protesting and then they get back on the bus and go home. Again, you can do that without paying people. You can definitely be like, hey, we're going to have this bus. It's already paid for. Like, if you want to get on, we'll take you in. You can protest. We can take you home again, just like a ski bus, right? Like an activities bus. And that can be kind of less nefarious than we might think. So that too. But anyways, just to say, yes, people are being paid. Yes, there's a network. Yes, it's not organic fully. And also a lot of the people who are involved are going to be non-paid people. We'll just remember that. The city of Minneapolis has been nominated by The Nation magazine for the Nobel Peace Prize. Like, what? How retarded do you have to be? The city of Minneapolis nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize for protecting criminal rapists, drug dealers, child traffickers, and worse. They get a peace prize? You're nominating them for a peace prize for that? Because two people got themselves quite legally killed by the police or ICE or whatever. You want them to have a peace prize as a city? for getting people killed, for encouraging them to insert themselves into situations that are already so fraught with stress and danger that they die over it, you're going to get a Peace Prize. Sure, guys, whatever. As we've known, the Peace Prize is a sham, has been for some time, if not always. Oh, right. Oh, poor Billie Eilish. Victory in New York, it says, after hundreds of patriots turned out in protest, the Rockland County Legislature Board has pulled the Sanctuary County bill. ICE will remain in Rockland, New York. The overflow crowd outside the meeting cheered USA in celebration upon hearing the news. That's fantastic. So they were considering becoming a sanctuary county, and enough people turned out that they said, never mind, we won't. And that's what I say all the time, that your local politics are the places where you can actually make a difference. And ideally, we're all doing that because you can see it actually matters, right? So big win there. Oh, a jury reached no verdict for a Palestine Action activist who allegedly fractured a female police officer's spine with a sledgehammer during a break-in at an Israeli-linked weapons factory. I never heard a peep about this. Ooh, you see the sledgehammer coming down. Awful. Yeah, that's crazy. That is crazy. You broke into a weapons factory and hit a police officer with a sledgehammer, and they said no verdict. I'm all for jury nullification and no verdict, but man, I guess I should have qualified it with if people aren't stupid and immoral, because that's crazy. That's crazy. That makes me sad, but that's what's happening. Okay. Oh, this is crazy. This family got swept out basically with a strong current, maybe like an undertow. They were paddleboarding and kayaking, and they all got swept out like a mile offshore very quickly. And it was a mom and her 3 young kids. And her 13-year-old is the oldest kid. And he volunteered to try to swim into shore to get help. Because if you don't know, it's pretty unlikely you get saved once you're out that far away from shore. It's hard to see people. It's difficult. You don't even know if anyone's going to notice you're gone fast enough to get someone in the air to see where you're at to rescue you, right? You don't know. So you are smart, actually, if you have someone like this 13-year-old boy who volunteered to swim into shore. He spent 4 hours swimming towards shore. 4 hours swimming towards shore. How did he make it? He said, I prayed the whole time and asked God if he would just get me to shore and help my family, that I'd be baptized as soon as we were done. And so he made it. When he got to shore, he had to run another mile or more to find someone to help him call it in to get the help. They found his family. They're all alive. They're alive because of him. God bless him. Happy stories. Love it. Big win. Thanks, God. And also another happy feel-good story. If you didn't know about Aloka, the peace dog, he was found actually by these monks in India, I believe. And he was a stray. And like many strays in many countries, they'll kind of come up to you if they're friendly. And if they're not friendly, they'll attack you. And so when you're traveling, it's smart to keep a pocket full of rocks. That's what I did. And otherwise, if they're friendly, they'll come up to you and they'll stick around for a second. And then usually they take off if you... even if you do feed them, honestly, sometimes they'll just leave because they're like, all right, now I'll go see if I can get food somewhere else or whatever. Go back to my pack or who knows what. This dog stayed, and they stayed on their hike or march around that country for long enough. They took him when they came here then to the United States. Out of Texas now, these Buddhist monks have been walking, I think, all the way to Washington, D.C., if I'm not mistaken. And that Aloka, the peace dog, came with them. So he's been honored. He's been walking with them on this peace journey. It's really funny. I've talked about their march before because I've seen kind of all sides sort of take them as as they're marching for them. right? Like the anti-ICE people are like, see, there's the peace march, the Buddhists, and they're definitely anti-ICE. And then there's like the pro-ICE people are like, see the peace march to get all these illegal immigrant criminals out of our country so we can have peace. And like, and I'll tell you, the Buddhists don't care about your politics. The Buddhists are just literally marching for peace. Peace, just peace. It's all peace, all types of peace, all levels of peace, in all ways, in all places, everywhere in the world. So Aloka the peace dog is also with them. Pretty fun. Okay, we had a nuke sniffing helicopter in San Francisco ahead of the Super Bowl. Just making sure, right? There's no nukes there. I'm sure that'll be continuing until the Super Bowl, which is this coming Sunday. Seahawks versus the Patriots again. Obviously, the Seahawks need to win. That's just all there is to it. But so we'll hope no nukes are there. Pierce County Sheriff, speaking of Washington State and the Seahawks, Pierce County Sheriff Keith Swank testified that Washington State Democrats won't go through background checks and are electing convicted felons to office. He testified, he said, you won't hold yourselves accountable. Therefore, I propose everyone who runs for an elected office go through a background check, a social media review, a polygraph, a psychological test. But Democrats, you won't agree to that because you have convicted felons who are elected officials here. I represent almost 1 million people, he says, more than all of you combined here, many more people. I wasn't elected chief of police. Being sheriff of Pierce County is much more than police work. Citizens reach out to me all the time regarding overreach of the government by you. It's so cool. I love it when there's good sheriffs. Very cool. Good job, Pierce County Sheriff Keith Swank, testifying in the Washington State. Love it. Love to see it. And we need more of that. Sheriffs are important. Again, your local politics matter. Pay attention to who your sheriffs are. Vote for the good ones. And speaking of sheriffs, Michigan Sheriff Dar Leaf says he sent letters to Representative Jim Jordan because he's finding evidence Dominion voting machines are rigging our elections for Democrats, in Democrats' favors. He says it was almost like the system was designed to be hacked. The emails that we were finding, and this is what led us to the letters, it's not just a letter. There's several letters to Jim Jordan, and what we were finding is that the Dominion executives were working with foreign countries on our elections and foreign software. Yes, that's what Maduro's all about. That's what Venezuela's all about. That's what Smartmatic's all about. That's what 2020 was all about. That's what all of this is all about. Yeah, and it's always leaning towards Democrats. So like I said, not all Democrats are Satanists, but that is the party of the Satanist movement. That's what they've chosen. It's the easiest because Democrats tend to be bleeding heart suckers and easily manipulated by emotion instead of logic. So it makes sense. Again, Republicans aren't fantastic or better people in general necessarily, but they tend to be actually for same reasons. So yeah, glad there's more and more coming out about it. We'll see what happens. It's definitely possible it all comes crashing down. I don't know that I also brought this up in the Epstein episode, so I'll bring it up now. Epstein had emails about underground tunnels and bunkers. We already knew he had underground tunnels and bunkers. We already knew both on the Zorro Ranch and on Little St. James that there were underground bunkers. I mean, you see that because it's obvious. You can see it. And also because people literally had like blueprints and things. And so we knew that already. We knew that he was a transhumanist. We knew that he's looking into like life extension, all those things, and that he's potentially in these bunkers and tunnels holding, women who are having his babies, as we heard him talk about, having a harem of women literally just making babies of him because he thinks he's so amazing and his genetics are so amazing that he needs to have tons of babies and all that disgusting psychopathic stuff. Well, what's very interesting is we have this email now. This is from Open-Minded Approach. Very, very cool Twitter account. Open-Minded Approach says this email of an Epstein, it's from his account. It's someone who works for him checking up on some of the construction elements, and he is pissed off that his underground bunker on Little St. James had metal being put into the walls. He says you can't have metal in the walls. You can't have metal anywhere. You need just concrete, and it needs to be this thick. And they're very concerned about that. And there is one reason why you wouldn't want metal. Do you know what it is? Have you guessed it? It's that you know an electromagnetic event is about to occur, and the bunkers that are made out of metal will also fry and will not protect you or the things inside of them. And bunkers that even have metal might be deeply affected in negative ways. And so you want no metal so that you are completely insulated in the event of a geomagnetic event, in the event of an electromagnetic event, in the event of a micronova or otherwise. There's the only reason you might care. So even Jeffrey Epstein knew the event was imminent. Quite interesting. That's gotta love the little gems in there that almost no one cares about, but that matter deeply. Okay. We also have this evidence that is quite interesting. This is from MJ Truth Ultra. This is another interesting Twitter account. They're more on the sort of Q and on side of things. So I have a couple of those that I like to follow that seem more rational than the rest, at least. Just keep a pulse on some things that otherwise no one likes to talk about. And this MJ Truth Ultra says, taking 3 mRNA COVID vaccines creates a weakened immune response, and China never gave their population the mRNA vaccine. She says, in a nutshell, this equates to one population, China, immune to some new bioweapon, and one population, America, susceptible to it. And then she's quoting from what looks like a Tucker Carlson interview with, I think it's Brett Weinstein. And they say, and the message that was injected into so many people was like a firmware update. It says it was a firmware update that caused the immune system of people to change the response to spike proteins. I totally can see it for sure. I would guess, just in my, and I will, maybe I'll, if I remember to do a channeled message around it, my guess is that, my hunch is that exactly the reverse actually happened. Love it or hate it. And I imagine there was a switcheroo because the Satanists already had lost a lot of control even by that time. So who knows? I guess we'll find out someday. Perhaps the ultimate truth. I do think I talked about Epstein talking about transing everyone and the trans agenda and, removing testosterone from men, making much more feminist men, feminine men that are more easy to control. So I think we talked about that. If not, then there you go. He also talks about that. So the trans thing is also a Satanist thing. We already knew. If you've already known, you've already known. Melinda Gates is coming out responding to Bill Gates potentially dosing her with antibiotics because of an STD he got from a hooker, also in the Epstein files. And she's just saying she's so sad. As I said, I don't know about her. She could be an actually duped, and have nothing to do with it all, or she could be kind of playing the role to try to protect some of the money of the Gates Foundation and Gates in general by divorcing him and kind of taking that with her. But she does say she's very sad about it. She says she's very sad. She never liked Epstein. She says that she's sad for all the women that maybe were harmed by him and sad at what her husband maybe did. So that's what she's saying, at least. Who knows? The American Society of Plastic Surgeons announces they will no longer do gender surgeries on minors. Hurrah! Huge win! They're saying that themselves, right? There still could be plastic surgeons who would, but in the American Society of Plastic Surgeons, to maintain your status with them, you would not be able to do that. So that's huge. That's very cool. Good win. Protecting children, less satanic than ever. Not ever, but than the last 10 years or so, or longer. Trump is saying Epstein conspired against me. They conspired against me, so I'd lose the election or worse. Yeah, and he's right. So I don't know. Take that however you want. Mamdani's New York City released an illegal alien charged with rape and strangulation, but ICE agents grabbed him. So good. Another win, despite their attempt to create very unsafe situations for you. ICE succeeded in grabbing that person. France invaded Twitter, X, whatever you like to call it, Musk's offices in France. They're trying to raid them and force them into adhering to the exceptionally tyrannical anti-free speech regulations that the EU and France has. Elon Musk is not interested in taking part in that suppression of free speech, and so they are raiding him. Unfortunately, some people believe that for some reason, all of a sudden, France and the EU have become good, and that they're raiding him in some way in connection with like him being mentioned in the Epstein files, which is a little bit crazy. I don't even know how you got there, but that's what some people are saying. It's clearly not what's happening. And again, if the entire apparatus of satanic power and centralization has been focused against Musk and Trump, you have to wonder why. I know black pillars think it's all just an illusion, and fine, you know what? You lose nothing by wondering if it's not. So at least wonder, dude. The EU Commission has pressured social media platforms to censor information. Yes, we know that. A decades-long global censorship campaign has threatened speech worldwide. They have actively suppressed things, even in the US and abroad, and they're continuing to do so, especially by this invasion of Musk's offices. Muammar Gaddafi's son has died. He's been killed, actually. I don't know the details, but he's dead. Probably the central banks care, and maybe even are the ones that took him out. Who knows? Oh, Xi Jinping's sister. I freaking told you guys. God damn it. Xi Jinping's sister monopolized Venezuela and Iran oil imports. So yes, she was connected with Venezuela. Yes, China is connected with. It's so obvious. I don't even know why I'm saying this anymore. Connected with Venezuela and the Smartmatic and the voting machines worldwide and suppression of votes and the controlling of votes in the United States and more. Yes, Xi Jinping and his sister. All right. Yay. Okay. I just, right? Do you ever feel like, yeah, I've been saying this for 20 fucking years and like 6 people have listened? That's how it feels. In Germany, some immigrants are catching rats from windows for food. You guys, I don't care if they eat rats or cats or bats or anything else. That is not important. I don't care if you eat tarantulas. You eat whatever you want to eat. And when you come intentionally to a country where that isn't how you do it, stop doing it. That's not what we do. That's not what they do in Germany. That's not what we do in France. Not anywhere in Europe. Not anywhere in the United States. That's not what we do. Plus, all those places are like trying to give you as much money and food and like fraud as they can. Why are you catching rats? They're literally using fishing poles with like cheese or whatever and peanut butter and stuff on the end and like putting it down into a garbage filled alley from a window above it until a rat catches it and then yanking the rat up and then cooking it and eating it. I'm not joking. You can watch it happen. This is one of those things where leftists are like, you're racist. You're racist for noticing that they're eating rats from garbage alleys. Like, no, I'm not. Dude, they did it with the cats. They're like, you're racist for thinking they would eat cats. And I'm like, well, they do eat cats, dude. That's not even a question. They say they eat cats. You're the racist for pretending like it's a fucking problem that they eat cats. You're the racist. I'm saying when you're in my home, don't eat a cat. You're racist for pretending that people in the world don't eat cats and rats. Assholes. All right, so Joe Biden's ex-husband, William Stevenson, is arrested and charged with first-degree murder of his wife, Linda. Like, what? Good? I'm glad, but like, who's who in this game? who's grabbing people for pressure, right? And who's like getting rid of people who know too much? Or did he really just like kill his wife and now they're gone? I don't know, man. I don't know. Another illegal biolab found in Las Vegas, this time obviously Chinese Communist Party, Ebola, AIDS, all this stuff. Viruses, not real, but the things that cause diseases, real. And so whatever you want to call the stuff they've got in there, it is the stuff of mass disease. That's what's in the biolab. That's what China's here doing. Like I said, I don't want you to live in fear. I'm not saying be afraid. I'm saying if you're not conscious of the threat China poses to you, you're not conscious. The START treaty. Oh, a different treaty. I think I might have mixed this with the Iran story. Forgive me. The START nuclear treaty between the U.S. has expired. U.S. and Russia has expired, and the U.S. has not formally responded to calls to make a new treaty. I think because they're trying to kind of package it together with Iran. Who knows? I don't know. But there's that. So those two countries are both in talks with us around nukes. Spain is trying to shut everyone up on social media. By the way, the reason that they're really big on this right now is, like I told you last week, Spain's royal decree, yes, they still have royalty in Spain, are decreeing that 500,000 migrants that are illegal immigrants will just be given citizenship quickly, fast, before anyone can do anything about it. There's just starting to get to the point where they might force them to get kicked out or send them back home or whatever it is. And so the royals there are saying, no, they're all going to be citizens by royal decree. And that caused such a huge outrage and flew through social media so quickly, which is what they hate. They like to just do things and not have you know about it. Once you know about it, it's a problem for them. And so once that happened, they were like, we got to do something about this free speech thing and this social media thing. So that's why they're mad at Elon Musk and Twitter, by the way, because before he bought it, they did not control that, and they could keep things like this more secret. So again, X got invaded because of things like that. So poor Spain, pray for Spain. Hopefully those 500,000 illegal immigrants do not get automatically turned into citizens of Spain. In Britain, because of the illegal immigration and all of the people that they've piled into the country from elsewhere, Keir Starmer is now saying they're going to diversify the countryside because it's too white and it isn't friendly to immigrants. Because when they get there, they don't find, I'm not exaggerating, this is what they're saying. They don't find vape shops and they don't find kebab stands. And instead, they have quaint little English pubs that don't have the food they want. And there's people walking their dogs. And that's a problem because they don't like dogs. I am not joking you. They say we have to de-whiteify the countryside so that all these people we've ushered in illegally will feel comfortable out in the countryside. So you have to stop walking your dog, and you can't have your pub that's been there for who knows how many hundreds of years because these random people just got ushered into your country, and you have to make them comfortable. Like, they want war. It's crazy. That's a crazy thing to say and do. God bless the people of Britain who are fighting back. Hopefully they will take back their country. A problem everywhere. All at once, somehow the whole world faced sudden, massive, illegal immigration from third world countries. Middle school students protesting ICE. This is another thing that that's so stupid. That they've been doing around the country. All these blue places have been letting their students out to protest. I talked about it last week. I had some pictures. I think I have some this week too of the places around me that I found. We've been driving around. We see kids on the street with their anti-ICE protest signs. I taught for decades. I'm a master teacher and I'm board certified. I have a master's in teaching, not in education, in teaching. From one of the most prestigious colleges that you can get into. There's hundreds of thousands of people applied and I got in, okay? Prestigious, high level, highly qualified. nationally board certified. There's people who try to get board certified like 5 or more times before they finally get it. I got it on my first time. I'm not joking you without trying. I'm a smart person. I'm beyond average. And I taught for decades. I taught in public schools and private schools. I've taught internationally and nationally. I've taught in rural and I've taught in urban areas. And when I'm saying rural, I've taught in villages of 300 families. That's how rural. I've taught in every possible mixture of language learning, of poverty, of otherwise. And 100% of the time, if I would have offered to my students, do you want to go outside and protest? They would have got up and run out of the room before they even heard what the protest is about. I mean, they wouldn't have because I wouldn't have let them. But I'm just saying, like, yes, the answer would be yes before no matter what. You fill in the blank, it doesn't matter. So what they want you to think is that students care deeply about this. They don't. What they want you to think is that students asked them if they could protest. That's not what happened. Activist teachers said, you know what would be so great is if we showed the world that kids care, blah, blah, blah. And then the kids were like, ooh, this is a fun game. Yeah, tell us what you want us to say. What should this poster say, teacher? Okay, here, my poster's ready. Can I go? They want to go out because anything they can do outside of the classroom is awesome for them, especially if it's unstructured, especially if they can meet their boyfriend who is in a different class and now they get to like have a handhold or kiss or worse because they're right out doing whatever outside the classroom. Yes, of course. All of them, 100% of them. So if you want to break down just in any given classroom, no matter what the issue is, how many students care about it, I'm going to tell you the maximum is going to be about 10 to 15%. Maximum. And of those, how many of them actually know anything about it and aren't just parroting a response they think is the best one? And I'm going to tell you less than 3% of that 15%. That's just an accurate description of high school and middle school students. So if anyone's out there trying to convince you otherwise, they're liars to themselves, or they're not very intelligent, or they don't actually know. That's actually how kids are. You could remember back to when you were in class, and no matter which part you would have been, which percentage and in which category of what I just described you would have been, you could remember the people around you and what they would have been, and nothing has changed. Kids are kids are kids. So it's so stupid. Okay, so that's going on countrywide right now, especially in blue areas. And students protesting ICE in an Arizona middle school were violently throwing things at federal officers and vehicles. So multiple of them were arrested. This is just the beginning of the things that have happened with these students who are at these protests, because they're not there because they care, and they're obviously going to take advantage of the situation. When you are not structuring that many kids at once and they're just able to do whatever, it's going to get crazy right away. That's what kids are like. It's insane that anyone thinks anything else. I don't know who those people are. But worse things than that happen, I think, that we're going to get to if we have time. It looks like we have a little bit more time at least. So Tulsi Gabbard, she's, of course, investigating, especially in Georgia and different voting, 2020 vote steal hotbeds. So she had to come out and say, contrary to the blatantly false and slanderous accusations being made against me by members of Congress and their friends in the propaganda media, the Office of the Director of National Intelligence has and will continue to take action under my statutory authorities to secure our nation and ensure the integrity of our elections. Good. Get them. Secure it. Happy to. SpaceX has acquired XAI, obviously both owned by Musk, but now merging together as one. Now the most valuable private company in the world. DHS Secretary Kristi Noem says, effective immediately, we're deploying body cameras to every officer in the field in Minneapolis. As funding is available, the body camera program will be expanded nationwide. Yeah, they didn't have body cameras. They weren't part of the various acts of funding that gave police the body cameras, and so many of ICE agents have just had their cell phones recording and like strapped to their bodies or held in their hands while they are engaging with anyone or on duty, so that they have that backup for themselves, right? So that they can, get away if they are being accused of something they didn't do, right? Or to show that what they did was legal, in the cases, of course, of shootings that have occurred there recently, especially, right? And so now they're going to have actual, body cams. They don't have to do that anymore. So that's good. That's good for everyone, no matter what side you're on or no matter what you think is happening, right? Of course, you should want body cams at this point in history. Trump files legal action against Trevor Noah after the Grammys and his comments there. So good. I mean, good. If you are actually libelous against someone, slanderous against someone, then you should be held accountable. So if not, then, I do hate lawfare and spurious lawsuits, but otherwise good. Get them. Texas wind and solar failed during that big winter storm we've just had that hit the nation and decimated some of the areas, especially over in the east and especially in, the Carolinas and some of those areas. Really hard hit. In Texas, again, natural gas and oil and coal saved the day. Greenwashing doesn't work. What you call sustainable energy doesn't work. So obviously we can't go that direction, but we can go nuclear, and that does work, and it's greener than any of them. Go figure. There was a librarian who's been charged with recruiting people to assassinate Trump. Yeah, for real. So a lot of these people who've been making these videos have fucked around and found out. If they're actually making threats or getting other people to make threats or getting other people to do violent things, those things are illegal. And so a lot of them have been arrested. If they're nurses, for example, and they've been threatening to not treat people or to poison them or murder them, then they're being arrested and or stripped of licenses and the like. So things are actually being done about these sort of things. These threats and these online, performative things are coming back at people, and I'm glad. You shouldn't be able to do those things. That's why they're illegal. They're immoral. They're wrong. Democrats want to push to fly spy drones over your property to enforce their green agenda and punish regulation violators. Oh, it's in Virginia. They want to use drones to make sure you're following like what you recycle or don't, if you're watering the right amount or not, and things like that. The Democrats are crazy, dude. Fort Collins, Colorado mayor Emily Francis organized a run with her constituents with a route that spelled out "Stop ICE." Good for them. I'm glad that they're having fun. Americans are absolutely roasting Hollywood Billie Eilish. We already talked about that. I already told you about Gmail. Gmail is a spoof of Gmail, and it has all of the Epstein documents, but they're arranged like an email would be, so they're more easy to follow threads and to search and all of that. So you can still use the .gov search, or if you want, you can use the Gmail, and maybe you even want to compare them and see if there's any differences. We talked about the Rothschilds disappearing from search results. They're having less and less of their name pop up. So maybe one or the other of these sources is better. So that's Gmail dot hold on, Gmail.world. Gmail.world. And we already saw that. Disney has a new parks chief, Josh D'Amaro, replacing Bob Iger. I'm just going to guess he's a pedophile based on what I know of Disney. So who knows? So if anybody knows anything about this D'Amaro guy, let me know. And yeah, they're going to try to give cows magic beans to stop their burps. Bovaer, which I have been telling you about for years now, they finally brought it to market in the Netherlands and other areas of Europe. They were injecting cows with this Bovaer stuff, and that was making them not fart, but it was also killing them and torturing them in the meantime. And so very painful and horrible for the cows. Still don't even know how it affects the meat or the milk or anything else. And in the meantime, it's obviously a horrifying idea. So that's probably going to get phased out. But now they're going to turn to the magic beans. And this would make them stop burping and curb their methane emission as though that mattered. It doesn't, by the way, and also probably likely to torture them and kill them just like Bovair. You stupid, stupid fucks. In Ireland, facilities housing fake asylum seekers are suddenly catching fire mysteriously. Oh no. Looks like Ireland found its heart. The Surgeon General of Florida announced all vaccine mandates in Florida will be ended, and the room erupted in cheers because now you are free to decide if you want vaccines or not, and you will not be forced to in order, for example, to attend school or otherwise. Congratulations, Florida. Celebrate a big win. I already talked about that on a recent episode. If you didn't check my Moltbot episode and AI talking to each other and ordering food without a credit card, paying for it somehow, check that episode out. Donald Trump posted evidence Democrats have been stealing elections. If you know, you know. Artemis 2, the NASA mission, is sending astronauts around the moon, not to the moon, but around it, further out into space than we've ever been, allegedly, if it's actually happening. And that's happening, I think, on Sunday, on the new moon. Is it a new moon? No, full moon. No, new moon. No, quarter moon. Whatever it is on Sunday. Also interesting. I'm sure we could do a whole show just on the mystical, esoteric, occulted sort of elements of this mission, because they are always there. They're always in alignment with all kinds of stuff. Their mission patch often is, referring to gods or goddesses, and in some cases, it's referring to the geomagnetic event, like the past moon missions have. Clearly showing like an angry sun, right? And then they're going to the moon to try to figure out why the sun gets so angry, etc. So very interesting stuff potentially involved in that. Maybe I'll keep that, so I'll remember to maybe do a little deeper dive into it. Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson signed an executive order ordering the police department to start investigating, arresting, and prosecuting ICE agents and Border Patrol agents. Okay, have fun with that. It's a losing war, I'll tell you. More paid leftist protesters discovered. They did a big march. Anti-ICE agitators marched through, I don't know, I think it was another like No Kings March or something. It was a nationwide thing people were very excited about, I think last weekend or something. But when they were marching through Minneapolis, for some reason, they were just breaking the windows of all the cars they marched by. Not all of them, but like a lot of them. And to their credit, again, when you have protests like this, there's people who show up sometimes just to do damage, like just to be assholes, right? Just to destroy things. So it doesn't necessarily mean that like the anti-ICE people did that. But it happened. And so people were mad. It's at least very divisive, whoever did it. What's this? Let's see. There's more. Oh, look, there's more. This is from Larry Elder. He says, hey, Harvey Levin at TMZ, a poll commissioned by Police Mag asked self-described very liberal people like you how many unarmed black men were killed by the police in 2019. 50% said 1,000 were, and 8% said 10,000 were. These are people who are self-described liberals, very liberal, who think that 1,000 to 10,000 people who are black and unarmed are murdered by the police a year. He says, of the self-described liberal people, 39% said 1,000 unarmed black men were killed by police in 2019, and 5% thought that it was 10,000. So that the very liberal was almost 60% of people thought 1,000 to 10,000. The liberal, instead of very liberal people, thought it was about 45% of them thought 1,000 to 10,000. So huge amounts of liberal to very liberal people think crazy things. Do you know what the actual number was? The actual number, even according to lefty Washington Post, was 12. 12 unarmed black men. 12 of them. These people think things that are so outlandish and they can't, for some reason, be reasoned with in order to see actual reality and facts. 12 people. They think it's 1,000. They think it might be 10,000. Can you imagine? No wonder they think they do the things they do, because they live in a fantasy delusional world that's so much worse than reality actually is. Oh, Target's closing down because people won't stop targeting Target and protesting inside of it and stealing from them and hating them for having trans clothes and all kinds of things. So Target's shutting down. Oh, Apple buys Israeli startup QAI, whose tech analyzes biometric physiological signals, including facial expressions via facial skin micro movements, enabling interpretation of whispers or silent mouthing. Jesus Christ. You know, we've said before, very obviously, they've been listening to you for over a decade, who knows how long, and therefore monitoring you, spying on you, but also advertising to you based on what you say. And then, you know, for over 10 years, they've also been monitoring your facial stuff and maybe even your body heat or your pulse or other things that you thought they probably couldn't know or didn't know. And then they've been predicting things based on that. And sometimes you might even feel like, oh my God, they read my mind. And oh, look, they actually say they can read your mind and your dreams and even implant dreams into your mind while sleeping. All of this perhaps from afar, as in maybe 5G and or the device you carry with you all of the time. Yeah, none of that is a conspiracy theory. And here we have Apple buying Israeli startup QAI in order to even monitor more. They always want more. So that's Apple. I've always hated Apple. I don't know if the rest are that much better, but at least I can control more on my Samsung Android. Trump orders the DHS to stay away from protesters in Democratic-led cities unless they seek federal help. Now he's saying we want them to ask us for help. If they want help, we'll come. If not, you know, stay away from the protests. Okay, hands off. Cool. De-escalate. We'll see what happens. Lay off, and then you can probably get a lot done without them even noticing. Panicking United Nations is demanding that the U.S. and others pay fees in the face of imminent financial collapse. I would love it if the UN collapses. What a fantastic thing that would be. Oh, God, make it happen. Thank you, God. What a win. Oh. The ICE protesters lit a fire at the ICE detention center and then chased off the fire department when it arrived and wouldn't let them put the fire out. And they're allowed to do that for some reason. District Judge Kate Menendez declined Minnesota's request for a preliminary injunction on Trump's immigration enforcement in the state, which is good. That means they get to continue enforcing immigration in the state. That's a win in my book. Ukraine's power grid experienced mass outages for several hours after a technical malfunction caused electrical lines. This was 6 days ago, almost exactly a week ago. So I don't think we were getting hit. I don't remember if we were getting hit with any big electromagnetic stuff from the sun, but maybe. I think that's why I saved this. It's potentially another piece of the ongoing geomagnetic excursion event. We just had the other day, it's hitting us today, a little bit yesterday, probably into tomorrow, but we had an X8, an X1, an X6, and an X4, I think, all Earth facing, all popped off within hours of each other. Crazy. It's crazy out there. If you look at the Schumann resonance right now, it's been like a solid hit for days, for like a week, and just lit up the whole time, no pauses. And yeah, things are getting intense. See what happens. We have A detransitioned woman who received gender affirming double mastectomy at the age of 16 received a $2 million medical malpractice judgment from a jury in New York State. This is breaking the dam. This is already, like we said, the tide's been turning. The dam is now broke. So many detransitioners are going to be awarded so much money now. Nowhere is going to perform any of these surgeries anymore because it'll be way too big of a risk. So under 18, not going to happen anymore. You know, they said it wasn't happening, but all these people are winning all these lawsuits, and very clearly it was happening. And so that's going to definitely not happen anymore. So good for this person. Obviously, they deserve even more. It's horrible to have your life ruined in such a way that you cannot go back. You can't change it. You can't recover from that. It's so sad, but I'm glad that they at least won, and that will help other detransitioners win, and also prevent more people from being harmed in such extreme ways. So save the children. This is an amen, hallelujah moment. Be glad. Be glad. Don Lemon spoke after being released without bail. I will not stop now, and I will not stop ever. Will you not stop wiping your taint with your fingers and putting it in the face of straight men? Is that what you mean, Don Lemon? You're not going to stop illegally invading churches that are in worship? Is that where you're not going to stop? You've never been an actual reporter. You've just been an op-ed commentator. So what is it that you're not going to stop? I'd like to know. That's Don Lemon for you. The man who falsely claimed that he shot Charlie Kirk was sentenced to prison in Utah. He is a very interesting person. He has previously also claimed to do other things that he didn't do. So what's very interesting to me about that is a lot of people who are on the more conspiratorial side of the Charlie Kirk thing, they were like, then who's this George Zinn who said that he shot him? And clearly this is a bigger organized thing that went on, and he had to know. And how did he know, the kid Tyler Roberts or whatever, and know to say, well, he now very likely seems not to have been in on anything. He just saw the opportunity to say, it was me, I did it, which he's done before. So, there are people who have very interesting and strange psychology that is different from yours. And I'm always trying to point that out to people. People almost always, even in supposedly critical thinking circles, attribute their own psychology to everyone else. So unless you've been a student of other people's psychology and sometimes aberrant psychology, you might not be able to understand things like this and potential motives that people might have. I think he was also a hoarder, they said, and he's also had child porn around. So very complicated, dark person. And yeah, that's the guy who said, it was me, I killed him, I shot him, leading to confusion in the immediate aftermath of Charlie Kirk's assassination, and he has been sentenced now. So yeah, I don't know. Some pictures of kids protesting, in which I blurred all the faces, but at this point, why bother? You've seen plenty, I'm sure, online around the country anyway. By the way, there was also one in which a girl was out protesting from whatever school in one of these blue areas, and she jumped in front of a Trump person's truck as they were driving by and got hit. I mean, so many parents are so pissed about all of this. Like, these schools are going to not be happy with the fallout from their choices. And hopefully that girl's okay. And she's probably seen all these videos where people do that. They're jumping in front of cop cars. They're jumping in front of whatever. And so she's like, I'm going to do that. Well, it's fucking dangerous, dude. Like, you've got to teach kids better than this. Okay. Trump's Department of Homeland Security has bought industrial warehouses in at least 8 states to establish a large-scale mass detention network. We're going back to like Rex 84 and Alex Jones and the coffins and the bullets and like what's going on here. But this is for ICE, supposedly, to convert 23 industrial properties to hold between 1,500 and 10,000 people at a time for a combined capacity of up to 80,000 people. Possibly here as well, they're doing this in order to hold people, if they are forced to actually take every one of them to trial, at least they will be imprisoned in the meantime. So very interesting there. That this is happening. Like I said to these people, you're the ones who are like thinking this is all just Gestapo, Nazi, whatever, but you've essentially forced them to create these actual incarceration, or in what do we call them? God, camps, concentration camps. Yeah, they're going to be concentrating illegal immigrants in these camps, because you won't just let them deport them. So you're the reason they're more militant, more like, got bulletproof vests and stuff, right? More militarized, that they've got cameras now, that they've got more funding now, that they have the right now to detain regular citizens because the police won't. Like, you guys are the reasons why this is all happening. You're creating the nightmare you thought you were avoiding. How ironic for you. That's stupid. Stupid. Oh, I don't care. Some of the other people who were with Don Lemon also got arrested for breaking into a church, which, yes, is illegal, whether you like it or not. Oh, they hacked the Stop ICE network. Some of the hackers did. They leaked everyone's information. That's non-governmental, or at least it is allegedly. Seattle Mayor Katie Wilson said, I don't even need to organize a signal chat. I'll just have my police people make a website for all ICE reporting. So you can call into the police anywhere you see ICE, and you can. What is this hair doing, you guys? I'm just so confused. It's like in the way constantly. Oh my God. Let's just take care of this. Just take care of this right now. Okay, I think I'm gonna be okay. Whew. All right. She's like distracting me the whole time. God. Okay, so she says, unlike the Minneapolis mayor, sub-governor, I don't remember who in Minneapolis was, or Minnesota was, in the signal chats actually organizing all the Stop ICE protests and people and license plate collecting and all of that stuff. But Katie Wilson in Seattle says, I don't need to do that. Just call the police, tell them all the stuff, and we'll just maintain a website. And so we'll just have it all there. So the police, she's just going to do it openly. We'll see. We'll see what happens with that. Minnesota Governor Tim Walz and State Attorney General Keith Ellison will testify before the House Oversight and Government Reform Committee over alleged fraud in the state. So that is being followed up on, even though you're all saying, nothing's happening. Luigi Mangione will not face the death penalty, unfortunately. Judge Margaret M. Garnett dismissed 2 of the 4 federal counts against Mangione: murder through use of a firearm and a related firearms offense. Mangione now faces just 2 federal stalking counts. What? Yeah, he definitely murdered him with a firearm. Why is that being dropped? That's awful. Whatever. This whole case is so crazy. So that's unfortunate in that. That's an abrogation of justice. We call it a travesty of justice. My God. All right. Abby Lowell, attorney for Don Lemon. Who cares? I'm not even reading this. It's just so stupid. Panama's Supreme Court ruled that a Hong Kong company's contracts to run the ports at both ends of the Panama Canal is unconstitutional, advancing Trump's Don Roe doctrine to block any influence by China over the strategic waterway. Good. Hallelujah. It's a win. It's a big one. Down with the CCP's influence over here. Jury. This is also a huge win. A jury has found the Seattle city is negligent and liable for the 2020 Chaz Chop killing of Antonio Mays Jr. and therefore is going to pay out millions to his family. Good. Again, you can't actually put a price on it, but you're the reason why this happened. New Jersey Governor Mike Sherrill announces that Democrats will work with ICE protesters to track federal officers. Again, we have elected officials actively resisting federal actions. It's the Insurrection Act for all of them. I get why they're not actually pursuing it, but it's definitely insurrection. In my humble opinion, I don't know. I'm not a lawyer. Indiana has passed State Bill 182, which recognizes only two sexes, male and female, and requires prisoners to be incarcerated based on their biological sex. Good. Huge win for women in Indiana. Yay. Florida revoked Eric's nursing license. This is one of those people who said that they would not treat ICE agents or Republicans. If they were bleeding out, they would let them. So their license has been revoked. They cannot work at all. They're not only no longer have that job, they can't get a job in the field at all, which is great. You don't deserve to have a job in a care position if you don't care for people. Two conservative activists in Portland, Joey Gibson and Russell Schultz, were prosecuted for felony rioting after they were attacked. They've now been vindicated. They are not charged anymore. That's great. They should be. They were the ones who were attacked. It was so crazy. This whole lawfare thing has been so crazy these past handful of years. So good. I'm glad they've been cleared. Arizona bill HB 2974 designates modified mRNA injections as biological agents and weapons of mass destruction. Woo! I don't know if it's passed. It's there. We hope it's going to get passed. So that's great. Yeah. Yeah, it's good. So much good in this episode. Trump is preparing to nominate Kevin Warsh. Actually, Warsh. That's his name. Warsh. That's like how weird people say wash, right? Warsh in Washington. Wash your clothes. That's his actual last name. Son-in-law of Ronald Lauder and former steering committee member of the Bilderberg Group to be the next Federal Reserve chair. All right. Maybe we'll have to look deeper into that guy. Trump has sued the IRS and Treasury departments for $10 billion over leaked tax records. I love it. Good. Trump signs executive order declaring a national emergency over Cuba. It will impose additional tariffs on countries supplying Cuba with oil. Interesting. It's heating up, right? Trump is to decertify all aircraft made in Canada and impose a 50% aircraft tariff unless Canada certifies American Gulfstream jets. Oh, Canada. Are you ever going to get away from Trump? I don't think so. Canada, by the way, still going strong with the Alberta Freedom Movement, where they may separate from the country, right? Emerge as just Alberta. And what's really interesting to me is I believe I predicted, if you can go back and find that they may talk to the Trump administration of the US to get some sort of backing or almost like protection to keep them sovereign. And that perhaps even if they don't actually become part of the US, that is at least this very strong alliance that I think is great. I think Albertans will love it. I love it. And we'll see it. Either way, I hope Alberta does secede and become free from the rest of Canada. They deserve it. They are not represented just like Californians who don't have Republican representation, even though it's 40% or more of the state. Alberta is in a similar sort of situation. They get ignored, they get shit on, they get raped for their resources. So God bless them. Their movement is strong and going stronger every day. Send some love to those people. This has been to lots of wins, especially in, the anti-trans sort of like stop attacking our children. That's had so many wins. We're seeing all of that sort of fall away. A lot more clarity on things like the fake green movement, a lot more clarity and people being held accountable who are calling, on pretty evil things to be done against ICE and or Republicans. So a lot of accountability there. That's been great to see. So there's a lot of upward trends here, a lot of wins, a lot of the CCP being routed and perhaps pushed back out of our territory, which is great. So we hope to see even more of that in the future. And until the next winning report, travel well, aim for balance, and always look inside first. Mwah.
Glued to them screens, it's a plot to drop the IQ. Fighting amongst each other over rumors that don't like you. Prefer us trapped in melancholy with the wood wands of holly. Suggestions that obliterate to camouflage the folly. Attempt to mental robbery, executed softly. The power proceed this mockery and walk the talk with me. Put the hands up to touch the Akasha, cause you know deep down there's something bigger than your wallet.